Hey everybody, so I want to do one more video talking about insulated tools and their purpose for an electrician. When I first got into the trade, it was something that kind of perplexed me because I would see my journeyman using his like just normal Klein lineman with just the plastic dipped handles, the really thin ones, and he was working hot. And I was like, how are you not getting hit? I thought you needed insulated handles. But all that the insulated handles are, I would say, is increased durability for time for installation. So like the plastic dipped handles, there's still an insulator. You know, you threw a current through them, it would probably be an absolutely awful conductor. And so to that point though, so what's the advantage of actual insulated 1000 volt tested handles? It's that, say you throw your lineman on the ground, you drop your lineman or whatever, and it hits like a sharp edge. If it hits a sharp edge, the plastic dip handles will you could probably see the metal of your lineman's handles underneath after that. But if you dropped your insulated tool handles, because they're like double, honestly, they're probably like 5 times the thickness of like plastic dip handles. Like the chances of you, that nick, like catastrophically damaging the plastic insulation of the tool is much less. So a lot of the tools will also say, like, if you see any rips or tears, or you can see the white of the under part of the insulation, discontinue use. So it's just like over time, those plastic dipped handles will degrade, and they will get cuts and they'll get nicks. So, you can probably work hot with them for like the first 3 months, but after that, you'd probably have to be very careful with how you position your hand when you work hot with that tool, because there's probably a nick in the plastic dipped handles that if you were gripping on the lineman pliers handles, and you could be sweat droplet, or your finger could just be touching the metal, and then you could get shocked. But with actual 1000 volt extra like thickness insulation on their pliers, that possibility is much less. So yes, you can work hot with non-insulated like rated handles. Yes, you can. Should you? No. Because there is a greater risk. And I guess this could be of a larger conversation about how to work hot. And I think I'll do a follow-up video on that, about times that I've got hit. But, or whatever, I'll just do it in this one. So, times that I've got hit and the things that have happened to me, really, I thought since I had insulated tools, I'd be like perfectly safe, and I had a meter so I could test things. But the first time I ever got hit, I was working in a remodel for my boss's sister's house. And, well, it wasn't that I got hit, but a hot went where it shouldn't, to like the side of, I think it went to the ground. I was taking an outlet out of just like a normal 18 inches off the ground receptacle that was in like a living room. And when I pulled it out, because they were trying to troubleshoot something, this one was already installed. Like I said, it was a remodel. So I pulled it out, and the hot fell off and it landed on the ground. And I was like, oh, and a big pop happened. And I was like, oh shit. Which is one reason why I've never been the person to do the compression plate on receptacles. I always do hook and loop. I don't care if it's slower. As someone who started their career troubleshooting and had to deal with wire nuts not being the wires inside of a wire nut not being pre-twisted, and you take the wire nut off and it all flops out and it could like hit the side of a box or something, that is the most annoying thing ever. And then also, if you aren't dotting your I's and crossing your T's and take a picture of everything beforehand, that can you have to be like, oh, crap. Like, especially if you're just starting out, be like, oh, where did that wire was with this wire. That can really, be a cause to create more work if you don't keep track of those sort of things. So that was the first time I ever got, like, experienced, like, an arc or a ground fault in front of my eyes. And then the next time this is the first time I actually got hit, was we were troubleshooting a university's lighting outside of their stadium. A couple light poles had went out, and it's a university, so they blow a bunch of the students' tuition money on maintaining the grass and stuff. And so the sprinklers were on. Sprinklers were going crazy, overwatering like wild, and there's this big puddle right in front of the light pole that they said was out. So when you're troubleshooting, a bunch of things that could be contributing to the fact that a light is out or a device is not working is a number of things, starting from a breaker is off, a wire's not landed on a breaker properly, it fell out, it fell loose. If there's a wire nut like joint that provides power to that piece of like device, maybe the joint in the back fell apart. Perhaps the hot fell off the device. Perhaps there's a nick in the insulation and there's like a ground fault occurring. There's a bunch of different situations that could be at the heart of why you are in a situation troubleshooting why there's no power. So if that's the case, there's a lot of danger that could be there. So I was like, oh, we'll figure that out as we go, right? So I just walked up to the light, and if you've ever seen a light pole before, access to the wire is done by a very small window hole at the bottom of the light pole. And so I go to kneel down to open up the Allen head on that window, and I put my knees like to the ground to be at the height of it, and as soon as I touch the ground, I get hit. So a hot was on the side of the light pole and making a ground fault to earth, and it was in a way where it wasn't tripping anything. So it was just a ground fault constantly occurring, and it was grounding out to earth through the water that was touching the light pole. And that was the first time I ever got hit. And I was like, wow, what a crazy way to get hit. And so in that case, insulated tools would have done nothing for me. But yeah, that was still a way that I got hit. Another time that I got hit, I was working, well, I didn't get hit, but my pliers had a small arc mark. I was working in a T-grid ceiling, and there was an open box, and I was just being lazy, honestly. That could have totally turned off power, but I didn't want to walk downstairs again. So it's working hot, and I was in the T-grid ceiling, and I just made sure that everything around me was like away from me, because I was like, there's a metal box, and I'm turning like 3 or 4 hots together, and I take the last wire, the one that's actually hot, to the bundle in the joint that I'm making, and it's like hanging out to the side of the electrical of the 4x4 4S box, and I take it and I grab it, and it's at a different angle than I've had at all the other ones, and I grab it and I accidentally touch a ceiling grid wire, and so I have the hot wire in the jaws of my lineman, and then like the side of my lineman touches the ceiling grid wire, so a ground fault occurs, and so it sparks and arcs on my lineman, and then the side of my lineman get popped. So there was like a little hole in my lineman, and that was an insulated tool, so I was safe. If my arm had been on the T-grid, I would have got hit, but that tripped the breaker and turned it off. So in that case, my lineman did help me. What's another time that I've got hit? It's kind of a sad conversation. This is why you don't work hot. Turn off a circuit. don't risk your life for 20-something dollars an hour. It is not worth it. Your life is, dude, just turn it off. But what's another time where insulated tools helped? I guess I'll just give an example of, like, have you ever seen guys who have like really old linemen and all the insulation's gone? Like, if you have a pair of those pliers, you're getting hit instantly you touch them. But because there's a plastic layer on your lineman, or whatever you're using, like maybe you have those type of hybrid wire stripper and lineman style pliers, those also, uh, the plastic insulation on that would also work to protect you. Yeah, so that would also work. The one thing that's nice about how like your linemen or all your insulated tools from like Klein and Knipex look is that they have, like, right before the insulation on the tool ends, before the metal, they have like outstretched like part of the insulation. That's to physically keep your hand behind the metal, so that like you'd have to be holding it super awkward for you to even be in a position to harm yourself. So just another perk of insulated tools. I think I'm going to do another video talking about why you get hit, or like what situation would pop your pliers, I think, because that's important as well. So if you guys have any situations about why you personally, like insulated pliers over non-insulated, go ahead and leave a comment and let me know. There's certain tools that I personally do like as insulated and other ones that I don't. For instance, needle nose pliers. I do not think that you need insulated needle nose, at least in your daily carry needle nose pliers. I think you should have as slim as possible needle nose pliers so that you can use those things for what they're intended to do, which is to get into ridiculously small places and to grab stuff. And so having that like extra dipped handle part, like I was talking about, that literally prevents your hand from going and touching the metal, it also prevents you from getting into really tight places because the insulation is bigger, the handles are bigger, and it's going to prevent you from getting into places that you want to get into. So linemen, I'd say yes. If you have wire strippers, I'd say yes. But I'm personally a guy who just likes to use the combination wire stripper and lineman plier. I really like Ideals. I think it's great. They're awesome. The jaws are massive, and the wire strippers are pretty good. There's improvement that could be had on the wire strippers, but the thing is just awesome. I would say having insulated screwdrivers is something that you should have, but I don't think it's necessary. So how you would pop your screwdriver if you were working hot would be, you have your screwdriver on the terminal screw, let's say on a receptacle that's hot, and you're tightening it down. Right, so the tip of your screwdriver is making contact with something that's hot, and so it's traveling up the screwdriver, and the plastic insulation on the screwdriver handle on like a normal Klein screwdriver is gonna protect you. But your screwdriver might get completely screwed up if you touch, like let's say you're working in a metal box, right? And you're a 4S box and you're tightening down the hot onto the receptacle like we were just talking about. Let's say you touch a metal stud that's right next to that. It's going to travel, it's going to make a ground fault from your tip of your screwdriver, from the terminal screw on the receptacle to the metal stud, or like the edge of the 4S box, and it'll pop the side of your screwdriver, and it might just end the life of your screwdriver. You'll be fine as long as you're not touching that metal, or someone else is touching that metal, but your screwdriver is probably going to be screwed up now. So in that case, having I think you should get slim-headed insulated screwdrivers, because the insulation can be big enough where it prevents you from doing a lot of tasks that you need a very slender-headed screwdriver to accomplish. Like breakers, like a lot of breakers have a very small window to access stuff, or it's like really recessed, and it's like, why are you so far in there? And so you have to get slim tipped insulated screwdrivers. I'd really recommend slim tipped insulated screwdrivers. I do not think that you should use insulated screwdrivers as your everyday screwdriver, though, because otherwise you're going to get screwdrivers that are absolutely obliterated from the insulation from you. You know, if you have a flat insulated screwdriver, keep it an insulated flat screwdriver. Have your beater screwdriver be something completely different, because the insulation is going to get ripped off from you prying and wedging it into stuff, and it's going to eventually show more and more of the screwdriver, and then it's just a normal screwdriver again with like a little bit of insulation at the beginning of the handle. And that, what's the point of that? So don't use your insulated screwdrivers as like your everyday carry screwdriver. Like just have like an 8-inch, quarter-inch flat head screwdriver, and just get like one of those. Like I think the longer the better for flats, and having a variety of them is great. So I think you should have a 3/16, a quarter-inch flat, and a 5/16, and I think they should all have the longest variety that fits in your toolbox. I think 8 inches is about the max of where you have a lot of prying power, and it's a great distance at reaching stuff that's really far into deep cabinets. So yeah, if you have insulated hand tools like screwdrivers, have them for a specific purpose and do not use them in your everyday carry stuff. And if you have insulated like pliers, like there's certain tools that I think you should have, like insulated lineman makes sense. You should have like, honestly, personally, with my tool set and how I use stuff, insulated lineman is kind of where I think you should draw the line. But you could also get insulated wire strippers. I personally, like I said, like the heavy duty wire stripper that Ideal makes, and its insulation is thick enough where it's almost like tested to 1000 volt stuff. It is not, and you should not work on stuff like that. But I'm just saying that I have worked on normal 120 volt and 277 volt circuits working hot with those pliers, and I'm not condoning that. I'm just saying that you can do it. I'm just saying that physically it is possible. I'm not saying you should. You should probably buy all insulated tools, and at the end of the day, not work on anything hot in general. So just want to put that out there. But physically you can. So just so that we can dispel this idea about insulated tools, like just understand what they actually do and what they provide to you. So I don't think, like, I have these Knipex alligator water pump, or the quick change ones, the water pump pliers, and those are great. And the reason I got them in insulated was because I just thought they were cushiony-er. I just liked the way they felt. And if you ever had dipped channel locks and then you go and you try to like grab onto like a fastener or something with all your might, you know, it kind of hurts. And I might get some flack for that, but whatever. But if you use something over and over and over and over and over again, have something that's comfortable. And that's why I got for insulated tools. That's something that I'd like to point out too. Having insulated handles is super comfortable. And also, if you're trying to shove wires into the back of a box with insulated lineman handles, it is so much easier than if you just had plastic dipped handles. So that's another reason. Plastic dipped handles kind of suck for pushing wires into a back of the box. But insulated lineman plier handles are great. It's amazing, honestly. They push really easy, and like Klein's insulated lineman handles, they're great at pushing wires in the back of the box. The Knipex ones aren't as great, but it's still way better than dipped handles. Yeah, so you don't really need insulated handles for like channel locks, and you definitely don't need them for needle nose. But I'd say lineman for sure, and you can get it for wire strippers. And I'd say, you know, diagonal cutter pliers are probably a good idea to have insulated, because you're usually just cutting stuff, and you should not cut, like, let's say you have an MC, right? Don't ever cut it all three. That's how you're going to blow a hole in your lineman. You're going to end up having to pay for a new pair of linemen or a new pair of diagonal cutters. Don't do that. get your roto splitter, cut the MC cable jacket, expose the conductors, undo the plastic, separate the wires, and cut them one by one. Otherwise, your 5 seconds of cutting it all together at once is going to cost you the cost of your insulated tool, which could be anywhere from like $50 to $70. So don't cut corners so that you can save 10 seconds but then lose $80. And $80 could be as much as 4 hours of your time if you're like just starting out. So don't do something that's going to save you 10 seconds but put you back 4 hours in pay. Don't do something like that. So this could have been a much more concise video, but I just wanted to point out some things about insulated tools that I have learned over the years and may influence your buying decisions on getting insulated tools, and maybe save you some money so you don't go crazy gung-ho about insulated tools. I have another thing I could talk about. This video is never going to end. They've seen a lot of videos, or I get a lot of advertisements of insulated sockets, and like every single socket is insulated and the ratchet is insulated and stuff like that. And there's probably a purpose for that. I mean, safety. But Crescent makes an adapter that is there's no continuity between the driver of the 3/8 drive on the outside and the female side that accepts it from the ratchet. So there's no continuity between the metal to the metal. And so that makes any socket you have, right, basically insulated. It's not 100% like apples to apples, but this, I think it's like $10 to $20 little Crescent, I guess you could call it a socket adapter. It's just 3/8 to 3/8. It's just providing a between your ratchet and your socket a way of electrically safing off the potentially hot thing that you're tightening up from your ratchet, which is on your hand, so you won't get hit. Like I said with the scenario of the screwdriver, if you put the hot lug against the side of the cabinet, that's gonna pop. And that's gonna so knowing how to work hot and working with insulated tools is something that you should keep in mind with your buying choices. In the case of fully insulated ratchet sets, if you knock your ratchet into the side of the box and you're using an insulated socket and an insulated ratchet and all this stuff, no harm, no foul. But if it's the situation I was talking about with this Crescent adapter, you run the risk. So let's say you're doing a shutdown for something, you could just throw this little 3/8 to 3/8 Crescent insulated to 1000 volt socket adapter extension thing on and have an added layer of protection so that you come home to your family and you have that. It's like a $20 thing. I think it's like $20. They make it in 1/2 inch, they make it in 3/8, I think they make it in 1/4, I'm not sure. But just something to keep in mind for another option for insulated tools. Yeah, so I hope you guys found that helpful, and let me know if you have any other tips for insulated tools or purposes or uses or reasons why you like them. So catch you on the next one.